Hello and welcome. My name is Zafar Iqbal, and you are watching the Mojo Story. A 40-year-old cafe and bakery owner was found dead in Delhi. It committed suicide on the New Year Eve. Now, he is being identified as Puneet Khurana, the co owner of a cafe named Wood Box Cafe, which is now closed, and his wife, with whom he was undergoing divorce proceedings. There was a dispute with his wife that was ongoing, and the two were living separately. But on the New Year day, Puneet Khurana took his own life. He committed suicide. Now, the family of Puneet Khurana alleged that he was under pressure from his wife and the in laws who were putting pressure on him. There was a property dispute about a bakery, but the wife had put out an Instagram post a few days before the incident in which she had talked about feminism and other issues. Now, on the face of it, it looks like a case which is similar to the one that you see on your television screen, Atul Subhash. Now, Atul Subhash case, there was this man, Atul Subhash, who also committed suicide and written a 24-page long suicide note and put out a long video. Now, are the two cases similar? They seem to be similar, but there are some differences also in this case and the previous case. To discuss this issue, we're joined by an eminent panel. We're joined by Advocate Sakshi Arora. Welcome to Mojo Story, Sakshi. We're also joined by Shoni Kapoor, who's a man rights activist, and we're joined by Yogita Bhayana, who's a women rights activist. Welcome to Mojo Story, Yogita. If I may start with you, Yogita, these are two different cases that have come one after the other, but they don't seem to be same. They seem to be different in many ways, but in both the cases it is the man who has taken his life, and the allegations are that the woman and her family were putting pressure on the man. So how do you see, are there any similarities, or these they seem to be different with a different context?
Okay, so first of all, it will be very difficult for me to comment till we know the whole detail of this particular case, which we don't have as of now, and it appeared to be a property dispute, which our courts are filled with. And secondly, you said one after another. I think there's a gap of almost 20-25 days with Atul
Right.
Subhash case.
Yeah.
Okay, that is not called one after another. One after another is called when 30 women commit suicide every day in India. That is one after another. So we don't bother about that. But one case after another, which is highlighted like this, I mean, you're calling it one after another. So I'm not objecting to that. What I'm trying to say, the
No,
whole narrative,
what
what
I
is being
meant to say that
established,
it hit the headlines.
I agree.
There
Men
was just a
committing
few
suicide.
days in between. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I understand. You mean to say men committing suicide over
yeah,
domestic violence or over
yes,
domestic
yes.
discord. So I am just saying that every single day there more than 30 women. This is a on record thing. Commit suicide over discourse, over dowry, over domestic violence. We seem to be okay with it. We are seem to be comfortable with it. That even a man commits suicide in once in a year or something, it becomes a big news. See, it is all, again, last time also when we were sitting and discussing this on your panel, I always said that this committing suicide, unless it is like, in dowry deaths and all that, we always apprehend that women has been killed because we were the country where we had dowry issues. It's not that we still have. We can't deny that the whole, even if like, nobody can deny in the panel that dowry is still a practice. You see in the weddings the cars are being given and all. So that's why we always apprehended it's a murder. Committing suicide, again, it's a personal choice of the person who cannot deal with the system. And again, it's a system failure. People get fed up with system. Atul Subhash got fed up with the system, courts, the court dates, and how he was handled. Only not he suffered, even the women must be suffering the same thing. So it's about emotionally how strong you are, how can you deal with the issues. We all deal with some similar issues every single day, being in marriage, being in relationships. We deal with that. It doesn't mean that you succumb to that. When you succumb to that, when you are putting allegation on the other partner, of course there might be aggravation points and aggravating points or whatever it is, you can say that, but you can't blame complete suicide to another person that he was or she was the one who committed suicide.
Right. We seem to have lost the connection there. But if I may come to you, Shoni, the point that she was making is that the focus has been on these two cases, which are separated by about a month. But on the other hand, there are cases of women who commit suicide, who are subjected to atrocities, but they don't seem to see the light of the day. But we're talking about these cases which have come to light now.
Zafar, thanks for having me on the show. Yogita spoke about nearly 30 suicides a day, which women commit in this country. But if you look at the data, and I look at the data of Statistica, which is giving me data of last data as of 2022, it can be seen that around 48,000 women committed suicide in that particular year. But you have to look that over 118,000 men also committed suicide. So if you look at it, nearly 2.5 times more men commit suicide than women in this country. When she spoke about nearly 30 women or whatever the number, they anybody can throw the numbers. But when you look at the numbers which is given by NCRB, and mind it, in this case, NCRB, all the cases where a woman commits suicide has to be treated as a 304B case. That is, uh, it is presumed as dowry death. So the presumption is that it is a dowry death, be it an accident, be it a suicide, be it anything. So anything other than natural normal circumstances is considered to be dowry death. So NCRB lists around 6,000 cases only. So when no, why I'm saying only, I'm not saying only just to prove a point. I'm just saying only because there is a great thrust which is given that 48,000 women die each year by suicide, and they are all presumed to be dowry deaths. No, the dowry deaths are 6,000 when we compare it to the suicides. And when I speak about the same data, nearly 4,000 people died in 2022. Men died, leaving suicide note blaming women. So please understand, we are talking about these two cases, and mind it, it is not these two cases. I run a hashtag one more Atul Subhash, and I daily tag 3 to 4 posts which are reported in media where a man has committed suicide alleging harassment either by his wife, estranged wife, or by girlfriend or any other woman. So please understand, it is not a sporadic case. These two cases have come to light, and media has picked up these two cases because they both have supposedly left long video notes, and they have documented the harassment which they faced. Again, I have not seen the video. The video is not out in public. To the best of my knowledge, it is not out in public, and whatever little I have seen, nothing can be inferred from that particular video or the discussion which is happening. But please understand, what we are demanding is not that it is one case, two case, 10 cases. So to answer this question, another data I'll give that nearly 176 acid attack cases happened in 2022, but we have banned sale of acid. So that is how we value the life of a woman. That is how valued the life or the prestige of woman is. Wait, Yogita, wait. And men
Acid is
after
still
men.
selling in the market. What are you talking? No acid has
I'm
been
giving
banned.
I'm giving
Sorry.
data from NCRB.
Nothing
I'm
doing.
giving
You
data
are
from
quoting the
NCRB.
wrong things here. Wrong
Yeah,
facts.
yeah.
Completely wrong facts.
No,
You
no,
go
no.
to the next door
So
shop, you
you
will
can go
get
to
the acid
Statistica
to clean
and
your
you can
toilet.
see that
So
there are
let him
100
complete the point, Yogita. Then you can come in. Yeah,
But you're misguiding. You're
yeah,
misguiding
yeah.
the
No, no,
audience.
no. I'm not misguiding. You can give me the correct data. If my data is incorrect, you can give the correct data.
Acid is
So please,
available.
please
Forget
understand.
about
Yes,
the
it is
data.
available. Around 6,000 dowry death cases are reported in 2022, and it
Oh,
is
my, you mean to say, okay,
equally reported one lakh
6,000
eighteen
is a
thousand
number, sir.
nine hundred
It's a big
Okay,
and
number.
Shoni, and
so
Yogita.
please, it does not mean it
The
does not
point is
mean
that
that no, Zafar, please let me complete. It does not mean that there is a provision for dowry death, so the life of a man is of any less value than a life of a woman.
I
each
think
Let us
side.
nobody's
no,
life
that
has
is
a
the
less
argument which
value.
you face every
Nobody's
day.
life has
That two men have committed suicide. It is not
Surely
two men.
nobody's life has a less value, but also there is a
So,
fact that there are a lot of such cases in the courts which linger on for months, for years altogether. There is a systemic failure also which we cannot ignore.
no,
Sakshi,
sir.
what is the sense that you get? There's so many cases in the courts, and people keep on fighting those cases for months and years, and that frustration keeps on piling, and that is another factor which leads people to take an extreme step.
I completely agree that the system is slow because of the pendency, and there are so many reasons which judiciary is addressing and now trying to resolve. But the problems remains the same. The infrastructure is the problem which cannot be built in a day. Then the hiring judges, number of judges over population is becoming a problem. Then there is another delay because of certain problems. The judges on leave may have personal issues. Then the procedural errors come in picture. I completely understand the delay, but one has to understand, keeping in mind these two specific cases, that there is law for everything. Law is made for the society after knowing and understanding the needs of the society. If there is a law of dowry death presumption that prevails, if there is a death between 7 years of marriage, in suspicious circumstances, that may amount to the presumption is given in the favor of the women that it was the death because of dowry demand. It could be suicide or it could be a murder, but the law was made because the society was acting in such a manner. Similarly, if we talk about these two cases where allegedly that the women has falsely implicated the man in the cases and harassing for the maintenance, or let's say in this case property is the issue, because but then we have to understand that in this particular case of business owners, they are not only husband and wife, they are partners also. Dispute between business partner is also very common. We cannot rule out the possibilities that this was a dispute. I understand there is a suicide, somebody has died. Having complete sympathy to that, but we have to understand if that can be amounts to abatement of suicide. Suicide can be an impulsive thought. It can come to anybody. It comes to everybody now and then. It is execution of it is rare, I would say, in general, because I have seen people some problem and they think of committing suicide, but execution actually reaching to that point where somebody actually commits it is a rare chance. In this case this has happened, and I completely agree this happens with men as well as the women. So it is very subjective how one takes it. Secondly, it is not necessarily that other person who is acting well within the rights is the person who is responsible for abatement, because speaking, if I talk about the law, the right of claiming maintenance is given to the wife as well as for the child. Like in Atul Subhash case, if he was giving 40,000 because as a husband and as a father, he's responsible to take care of the wife and the child. So it cannot amount to harassment if one is acting as per the law. Similarly, there is harassment that he had to travel from this to from Bangalore to Jaunpur. But again, the law is made such a way because it has to be made. Somewhere case has to be filed. It is filed where the wife is residing because filed by the wife. So if one is acting in these cases, wife if is acting within the law, within her rights, then it cannot amount to harassment or abatement of suicide. We have to understand that difference first. I
Right.
understand suicide
You,
has.
you, you you made a good point that they were not just husband and wife; they were also business partners, and this seems to be
Yeah.
a problem with there was a problem in their business. They had shut the cafe, then there was a bakery, and the wife also, according to reports, said that she had a share in that bakery. The husband perhaps said that it exclusively belongs to him. So there was a problem in that. But what happened is that the relationship between the two got extremely sour, and there is one CCTV footage that is circulating where, in fact, there's an exchange between the two, and also there are reports that just before he took his own life, there was another phone call between the two, and there was again some sort of an exchange between the two. So obviously it is, Yogita, the point that they're not just a husband and a wife; they were business partners also. So it also need to be looked from that point of view. Also, it can be any two business partners, not necessarily a man and a husband and a wife.
I started my discussion with the same statement that courts are filled with such disputes with partners. So here we have two angles. One is the domestic discord, and second one is a business discord, and it is interrelated. So again, coming back to the thing, committing suicide doesn't make you a right person. It doesn't give you the thing that, okay, the person who committed suicide was the right in the marriage or in the business, or the person who could stand with the pressure or who could deal with the pressure better, like Sakshi said, is kind of in the helm of the receiving end. It should not be the judgment point. So we first of all, that notion has to go, that the person who commits suicide is the victim. Second, now coming
No, can you
to the system
explain that
again.
the person who commits the suicide is the victim? You said is not the victim. Can you explain
Not
that?
really, not necessarily. Can be a weak person as an emotional person, can be, kind of. I don't want to get into the detail. We should have a discussion on that. The how we raise, the human beings, or the schools, education, life skills. We don't give that. That's a separate discussion altogether. However, here we all are victim of the system. If every day, if we start counting the issues with the systems, we all are having issues. You go on the road, you have potholes, you have 100 things going on. They cause us mental and physical harm. It doesn't mean that, okay, we all are victim of the system. It doesn't mean that we succumb to that. Now
But
coming to the
these two,
details,
these two cannot be related. Potholes and here a person taking
I
his
am
own
I
life.
am giving you example. I am giving you example that system actually frustrates everyone. I'm just giving you that example. So
No, we
courts
understand
and the
there's a
police station,
systemic failure. We
everything.
understand there's a
So
systemic failure.
he succumbed to the pressure of the system. At least in Atul Subhash case, this case I have not got the details as yet. So he was frustrated, going back and forth from Bangalore to Jaunpur and this and that, and the lady judge, whatever, he never used to be there, and all those things, details what he gave. What I'm just simply trying to say is that till it is proven, like, because there is a reason, definite reason. If you compare the number of deaths of women and number of deaths of men, we always go by that average, right? We have to see anything in that angle, that what is the average of women committing suicide, dying due to dowry and everything. They are murdered much more than that. Did you not see that where he chopped the body, and kept it in the fridge? How many cases of such came? So we can't say like
So
we can't
yes,
start judging
yes,
all the men. We
right.
can't say,
So
okay,
so
everybody.
it should not be man versus women. It's a human being that takes his life
Absolutely.
at the end of the day. But there is this
But we need to see
CCTV.
the average. We
Yeah,
need to see the
there is
average.
this
Average,
absolute.
by and large, women are on the receiving end. That's exactly we are fighting for. We are not fighting for that we are women and we are fighting for women's
So
rights.
there
We
is
are
a
only fighting
small
for the
CC,
larger picture.
there is a small CCTV footage that is circulating. If we can play that, then my colleague Harshit is also joined. We can have a word from him also.
यहाँ पे बता दे क्या करना है बकवास जी मुझे सीधा आंसर दे 10 मिनट बाद बोलियो अभी मत बोलो मेरी मर्जी का जब मर्जी बोल दो आप लोग की जितनी है तो सीधे तो जब नहीं बोलना चाहूंगा तो नहीं बोलो तो देख भाई तेरी तेरी जिंदगी खराब नहीं कोई बात नहीं मेरी जिंदगी है तो मत आपको क्या दिक्कत है मेरी करा मेरी तो हुई ना दिक्कत ये है मेरी भी खराब हुई है तेरी वजह से ये सुन मेरी भी खराब हुई है तेरी वजह से आपको क्या दिक्कत तुम्हें नहीं करना जवाब दे देना तो तेरे घर के सबके नंबर है सबका सबका एड्रेस है मैं जाऊंगी जाओ हां सबको लेकर आऊंगी और तुम ढिंडोरा पीट के आऊंगी तेरी गली के अंदर एनी डे बिल्कुल एनी डे तू ओवर कॉन्फिडेंस से बैठा ना तेरी एक दिन रोइयो फिर फोन पे
So this is the CCTV footage. You can clearly see that the exchange between the two is extremely bitter. Harshit, you have been reporting on these cases. The last case, Atul Subhash case, also you reported. What is the sense that you get? Here, there is a difference. They were not just husband and wife, but they were also business partners. And there was a dispute essentially rooted in business. And that really harmed the relationship, and that really forced them to distance themselves from each other, and in the end one of the persons took his life.
Right. Zafar, I've observed two things specifically, and I'm sure Sakshi will actually be able to answer my question in a better manner. What I've observed is people are in a huge amount disappointed with the judicial system we have in our country. There's a lack of awareness among the people. They are not aware of their remedies, what remedies they have, which they can avail to get a better form of justice, which we are looking for. And they're disappointed with the system. They're disappointed with the fact that bhai, hamara case is pending for 6, 7, 10 years and we are still fighting for justice. They're disappointed with the fact that there are number of, tariq pe tariq, as they say in this Hindi slang. So there are a lot of dates which they have to appear for. There are a lot of things which they cannot do anything about. There are judges who are taking leaves. There are advocates who are charging hefty amount of money for petty issues, and they are also disappointed with the fact that okay, the cases which we are fighting in, especially the laws which are made to protect women, are now being used by women to harass men. This is a sort of narrative which I have seen being developed in the past few years. Yogita ji, I would actually like to ask you this thing because what I believe is, and what I have seen is, in such cases, whenever we talk about that a law which was made to protect a woman was used by a woman to harass a particular man, I believe is ultimately it causes more damage to a lady or to a woman who is actually in a position where she is fighting for justice, where she has been harassed, where she has seen actual injustice with herself. And what actually happens is such cases develop a narrative that okay, ठीक है, 80% of the dowry cases are found to be false. Then this means this another case of dowry is now going to be another false case of dowry. So we have a particular set narrative in our minds. Similarly, in this case, in Atul Subhash case as well, I see a narrative being built up on social media that okay, now these laws are being used by women to harass women. But I personally believe that all these cases are actually about the failure of our judicial system. They are not about a couple fighting and then deciding one of them deciding to take their life, and then we are fighting that okay, which one was wrong, which one was right. But I believe, or what I have observed is that this actually is more about the flaws in our judicial system which needs to be reformed. Sakshi. Sakshi, if you could hear me, could you? Yeah.
Yes, I will not rule out the possibility that there is some need of improvement in judicial system when it comes to increasing the number of judges, infrastructure, and thereof. But also, we cannot blame the system holistically and put everything on the system, because we have to understand it first. Establishment of families courts itself is a very good revolution in this regard, because which primarily focuses on conciliation and mediation between the parties. All the dispute major all the major disputes between the husband and wife goes to the families court. Families court are made such a way that they will promote, they will also make the party, convince the party to go for mediation and settle the matter rather than going into a litigation, which gets definitely, since it's a, am I audible?
Yes, yes. Please come. Yeah. So we lost the line to her. Shoni, you want to come in and have a word?
Speak something to what Yogita said. I wanted to respond to that. See, any
Yes.
data I'm not making up. All the data can be seen at Statistica or it can be seen at NCRB, and I challenge anybody to prove that my data is wrong. Right. Secondly, the way Yogita was going that there is problems with pothole with something and something. तो आदमी तो गधा है, वो पोर्टल पे सुसाइड कर लेता है. And woman, when a woman commits suicide, it has to be anything, nothing else but dowry. So all the women who has committed suicide, they commit suicide only because they are harassed by dowry. And any man who commits suicide, वो तो पोर्टल से भी सुसाइड कर लेता है, उसको तो हजार प्रॉब्लम हो सकती है, वो इसलिए सुसाइड कर लेता है. In this
So I
particular
think
case,
I think that comparison. I had asked her that comparison.
yes.
To make that comparison, because
in
here a
this-
person is taking his life, but what she
Yes.
meant to say is that there is a
No.
systemic failure. There are pressures, pulls and pressures from different quarters which impact the human being.
I understand, but when a man says, even if there was a business dispute and a man has harassed another man to commit suicide, he'll be implicated. He'll have to face trial. He
Yeah.
cannot be. There cannot be say. It cannot be said it was a man between and a man dispute. A person who has instigated any other person to commit suicide has to stand trial, and the court has to do justice. Defending a person just because there is a man and a woman involved, and defending a woman that the woman cannot do anything, and hundreds of women are killed for dowry, that does not absolve that woman who has instigated a particular man to commit suicide. Please understand that
Right.
the man suicide cannot be looked down or looked or cannot be shunned just because there are multiple women who has committed suicide. My
Right.
question is
Or
very simple. Is there a law which protects a man from the harassment which he faces from his wife, girlfriend, or any other woman?
Right.
No.
Yeah, right. So, but there are the family of the man has been saying that he was under a lot of pressure from his wife and in-laws, and that really forced him to take this extreme step. Let's hear what the mother had to say.
साल तक बच्चा ठीक रहे हैं, उसके बाद इन दोनों की अटपट अटपट होती रहती थी। फिर मैंने इनको अलग भी किया, मैं कि चलो खुश रहेंगे दोनों। तब भी इसने मेरे बच्चे को टॉर्चर करती रहती थी। मेरा बच्चा नहीं, अंदर ही अंदर पिता रहता था।
कोई वजह क्या, मेन झगड़े की वजह क्या होती थी?
बट कभी पैसों की ले देन, कभी बिजनेस, दोनों का इकट्ठा था। उसकी भी कुछ बातें होती रहती थी, कुछ परिवार की। बोलता नहीं था ना बेटा बेटा, बताता नहीं था माँ को ना बाप को खुल के, हाय मेरे माँ बाप टेंशन में आ जाएंगे। अंदर ही अंदर मेरा बच्चा अपना गम खा खा के पीता रहा। और पता नहीं कल क्या, इसने पहले ठीक हो गया था मेरा बच्चा, पर नहीं कल इसने इतना टॉर्चर किया मेरे बच्चे को, बहुत ज़्यादा टॉर्चर किया है। उसने ये कदम उठाया है। हे भगवान, मेरा बच्चा तो चला गया, मेरा बच्चा चला गया। मेरे बच्चे को इंसाफ दिलाओ, उसकी आत्मा को शांति मिलेगी। इंसाफ।
Right. And Monica Pahwa, the wife, had also put up a Instagram post a few days ago, which stands deleted now, but which has been reported, in which she wrote, "Well, feminism suits me as idealistic values are my core, and feminism means giving and getting more respect to one another. No slave treatment and no stopping some girl to speak her mind. Even a house help, guard, rickshawala, a tiny kid deserves respectful treatment. Once a coward fought with me, that respect has to be earned." Oof, what disgrace. I disagree. Respect has to be given to each other and everyone. If not, then you lost the respect, baby. Few, maybe that's why in India we address people with aap, bhaiya, didi to even strangers, isn't it? She had written in that Instagram post. We'll take the last word from all our panelists before we wrap up. Shoni Kapoor.
See, I have nothing against what she has written. She may have written it for any reason, and she follows feminism. She doesn't follow feminism. I have nothing against feminism per se. What I have is the fight for supremacy, that no woman can do any wrong. I have strong objection to that kind of statements. I have strong objection to that kind of statement that there shouldn't be any laws to protect men.
Right.
So I have nothing
I
against
think we should
make
look
out
at it. We should not look at it from the prison of a man and a woman. We should look at it from the prison of human beings, of individuals. Every
yeah,
individual has a set of rights and
right.
has right to live, not to take his life, cannot be pressurized and put under strain, and there should be no discrimination in that regard. Harshad, last comments by you before I go to Sakshi and we wrap up.
Right. Before we move to Sakshi, Zafar, for last comments, I'll actually take ahead with Shawnee has said. The mistake I think as a society we all are making is we are talking in terms of man and women and feminism and male chauvinism and all these proper noun terms actually. We're not talking about the individual concepts. The law and judicial system in our country is designed in a way that you know it is able to serve justice to each and every individual who is looking for justice. So whenever we talk about a crime, we need to talk about the laws that should be working in a manner that every individual can avail justice. If we have laws which are designed in a manner that the laws were made to protect women and it has some sort of repercussions as well, then I firmly believe that we need to make some certain reforms in our laws, in our judicial system, because whenever we talk about a person committing suicide, then it is not only about a man committing suicide because of a woman, or a woman committing suicide because of a man, or because she was harassed. It is actually more about the human rights. I know hundreds of women who are harassed every day, and nobody is there to listen to their complaints, and they are not served justice. Similarly, I know hundreds of men who are being harassed, but they are not being served justice. So I believe that it is about justice. It is about our judicial system, rather than we should not be actually talking about male, female, feminism, or male chauvinism, but it actually is about the reforms which are certainly required to be made in our judicial system. Sakshi.
Sakshi, last word to you before we wrap up.
Absolutely. I believe that putting all the blames and pressure on the system or judiciary specifically matters is not right, because we have to understand where we are going as a society. The law was made because society needed it. Because the women faced harassment, the protection from that harassment was given by the way of law. And that's what a law does. It protects the society. Now, since the society has changed very much, I understand there are a lot of things happening, women empowerment, this and that. With that, law is also changing. We must appreciate, earlier there was no provision for the maintenance by the men, by the husband. But now husband can also claim the maintenance. If there is harassment, I understand there is no explicit section like 498A or any other law in favor of the men. But it is not like there is no justice for a man who is facing an harassment. Now, considering these two cases in mind, I also want to highlight, first of all, we have to understand what is harassment. Facing a trial before the court is not harassment. Having a disagreement between the couple, having a fight is not necessarily means to harassment. It is very natural to have a discussion, to have a fight between your spouse, between the spouse. So it should not be amounts to harassment from either of the sides. Understanding this and then moving forward, that judiciary is not at the blame. We have to understand where the society is going in general, where we have values, where it is growing, and of course the law is speaking for the person who is in need, who is the aggrieved person. Earlier it was majorly women. Now if we are recognizing as a society that men are also subject to cruelty in certain cases, and I know law is coming in that favor. Law is coming. There is no separate section, but there are certain laws which still protects the men's rights. So rather than making men and women husband and wife, we should see it as an individual in the society.
Right. Thanks so much, Sakshi. Shoni, you want to quickly come in before we wrap up?
What Sakshi said, there are many sections which protect men also. So I like to listen to at least one section where a man can file a case against women.
Sir, under Criminal Act only, I have experienced the cases where the men has filed the cases for harassment.
Ma'am, one section where a man only can file against women.
It is not men only. I am saying when there is an harassment.
Please understand, all these sections are there for
What
all
is-
kind of.
What is
only
clear is
Like
that
I said, individual in the society, not
in
men
an,
and
in
women.
an evolving society, perhaps it's also time to revisit these laws from time to time, so that they are uniformly applied to all the individuals. That's all the time that we have on this show. Thanks to all our panelists for joining us, and thanks to our viewers for watching the Motor Story.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Motor Story and support independent, robust journalism.